Hi folks, welcome back to the Addicted Bookworm, where my addiction's all over the internet. So in today's video, I'm going to be talking about the Snow White remake flop. And the reason I'm talking about it is because Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs is based on a story written down by the Brothers Grimm, I believe in the 17 or 1800s. I'm not exactly sure when they were born or when they died, or when they were written. So I actually have a copy of the Brothers Grimm. Now, this is not the complete collection. They actually, on my Kindle, I actually have a tale of Brothers Grimm, but there's much more stories in it than this version. But still, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs is in it. By the way, I still love this so much. I still do. When I go to Barnes & Noble, I'm going to go probably in May, when I know that the cold drinks will fit the weather. I'm actually going to seek out the thicker volume of this book. So, yeah, this was actually the first book of fairy tales I had owned in decades. Last time that I owned a collection of Brothers Grimm fairy tales, I was at least about 8. So, yeah, very, very long time since I owned it. I cherish this edition so much. So, the remake finally came out. The live-action version finally came out after a year-long delay and all this issues and Zellweger being ungrateful. People keep on saying that you don't bite the hand that feeds you. That is absolutely true. So, not talking about the supposed wokeness of the movie, but let's talk about why people were turned off from this movie. Now, it did make $87.6 million. That is not enough that's not enough to make Disney happy. That's not enough to break even. They have to get back the money they spent on the movie. Now, here's the thing, okay? Live-action remakes have always been a grumble for people that love the animated movie. Actually, on my phone, I have Disney, and I do like to sit there and watch the original, the original animated movies, because even though they're sanitized, they're nothing like the Brothers Grimm fairy tales. To me, growing up in the 80s and the 90s, I really cherished these movies. Now, with that being said, I like to go and see a movie to see, is it any good? There's a lot of people say the movie's good, but when you have an actress who bites the hand that feeds her, that attacks the 1930-something movie, which was released during the Great Depression. Now, for people that don't quite know what the Great Depression was a period of economic decline. There was job loss, there was dust bowls, and there's I don't know how they did it, but there is a video done in one of those old-fashioned cameras that shows the dust bowls hitting New York and Chicago. I think just Chicago, but it could have been New York. Those things were nasty. Those things were bad. And they would get under your floor. Not under your floor, under your door. They were bad. And if you had a pre-existing medical condition, or whatever you want to call it back then, just a medical condition, you could die from it. So Walt Disney brought out Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, and I believe it was a way of trying to cheer up people that literally didn't have anything to be happy about. They were struggling to put food on their table. There was soup lines. It was not a wonderful time to live. And my grandmother, God rest her soul, she talked a lot about the Great Depression, because she was a young woman when that happened. So she had a lot of stories about the Great Depression. So when you have an actress that attacks it, that call that the prince is a stalker, like weird, it gets people really, really pissed off. And when you have the son of the animator who was involved in creating this movie, among a lot of others, people listen. People listen big time. And that's just how they are. They will listen. So then the whole thing in Gaza happened, and she, of course, opened her mouth and said more stuff that people didn't like. And Snow White suffered. And also the dwarves. We'll not talk about the dwarves. I had a nightmare about those dwarves. Trust me, I didn't go and see the movie. I had a nightmare about those dwarves. Ugh. So when Friday came around, and I went and I checked my local movie theater, there were tons and tons of times. There was a lot of times. So it told me there was at least 2 theaters that were showing it. Today is Tuesday. Today's Tuesday. There was at least 11, maybe a little less than that, of times that you could go and see the show, see the movie. It's now down to 1. 1 time. And this usually happens when a movie is about ready to leave the theater. So, if my assumption is absolutely correct, after 4 days that movie has been in theaters, they're ready to ship it back to Disney. They're about ready to ship that movie back to Disney, saying basically that we can bring a much more profitable movie in to take those spaces. And they will do it because there's movies that come out almost every week. So they can easily ship it back to Disney and get movies in that will make more profit. So, for people that don't know, if you are used to the Disney version of the story. So in the story of Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs, and here for people that don't understand it. So it's a story about a girl named Snow White. She is the byproduct of a desire, of a wish. So her mother, the queen, was sitting by the windowsill, doing what women do, and it's snowing, and she pricks her finger, and these drops of blood come on there. Now this is way before they had Band-Aids, okay? And she looked at it and saw how beautiful it was, and she said, "Oh, how would I wish to have a child with skin as white as snow, lips as red as blood, and hair as black as ebony." Well, she got her wish, but she died in childbirth. Now, no one really knows what happened to the king, because the king is not mentioned in the story at all. It just, you go to the evil queen. Now, so obviously, he remarried because he has to have a queen, and this woman was basically Satan. And so, unlike in the Disney movie, she tries 3 times to kill Snow White. The first is with I believe it's with ribbon. The other one is a comb. The third one is the apple. And the reason that she went as far as going with the apple is the dwarves cut the ribbon. She breathed. They removed the comb. She breathed. She lived. And the mirror, who could not lie, said basically that she survived. So when she bites into the apple and she essentially dies, the prince, who doesn't appear into the story until at the end of it, because he heard far and wide about this beautiful maid that's in this glass coffin, and he goes to see it. And the men are carried away. One of them trips, break, and then the apple piece comes out. And basically, she just literally choked to death. And what happens to the queen in the story is that she is forced to wear these burning hot shoes, and she dances until she dies. Brothers Grimm was not shy of doing some pretty brutal KOs. When Disney acquired, so Snow White, as well as all the ones, they were in public domain, because at the time the Brothers Grimm wrote down the fairy tales that were told orally. There was no such thing as copyright. So naturally, books that came out during like the 16, 17, 1800s, they were naturally already in public domain. So Disney went and took a public domain product and turned it into their IP. They sanitized the shit out of this movie, out of the story, to where you've got the, they don't even include the, the ribbon and the hair. They don't. The queen just immediately goes to the poison apple. Just goes for it. She just, I'm gonna get this bitch. I'm gonna fucking kill her. But that's what happens. So even though you have a story that was very popular in Germany, the women would tell these stories around these fires, and they were all designed to teach a lesson. They were all designed to teach a lesson. Little Red Riding Hood was about virginity, and I believe Snow White was about not accepting food from people, especially elderly women, because they might be witches. So that might be the moral of that particular story. The thing about it is that when you go and you have a reboot or a remake of something that is very beloved and very, very timeless, and you got a actress who doesn't care about that. I know we're all far removed from the Great Depression. We're far removed from 5-cent candy bars and soup lines and all that stuff. And nowadays, when we look at people in soup lines, we're like homeless people that did things, probably sold drugs or did drugs, not realizing that about 99% of Americans in the 1930s went to soup lines. This was not about, they took drugs, or this was about they did not have work. And this was through no fault of their own. It was through this bubble that happened during the Roaring '20s. After World War I came around, everybody, people were getting credit that they could not pay back, and the bubble burst. And on October 31st, 1929, a man walked into his bank to close his account. And at that same time, the stock market was going into free fall. So these two events marked the beginning of the Great Depression, and people did not have trust in banks. People didn't have trust in the stock market. And it took America quite some time to get out of it. And of course, World War II also helped things along. And then I think it was also a hurricane also did it as well. But the thing about it is, people love the story because it is simple. Because it is about a girl that is forced to be a servant in her own home, and just like with Cinderella. And she is she's this picture perfectness of innocence, and she's not a warrior. She is a girl that all she wants to do is live in peace and quiet and everything. And that's what they tried to do. They tried to turn these girls that, you know, I mean, of course she ended up ruling her kingdom, because when the queen died the way that she died, Snow White became queen. But I think that when you go and you look at these movies and what time they were in, you're like, I don't like that, I don't like that, blah, blah, blah. And you try to alter it, you try to change it away from its original meaning, you're going to get a lot of backlash. And when you dig your hole deeper and deeper and deeper, you are going to get backlash, backlash, backlash. And in all honesty, if we're talking about reboots or like live action remakes, I would rather watch every single live action remake that Disney did except this one. Because none of them, they were all so grateful to be, or they felt so good about playing these roles, because to them it added more depth to their acting career. They were not ungrateful. They were not, they did not bite the hand that fed them. And yes, I will admit, there were people that had very nasty reasons why they did not like these movies. But what Zellweger did was Zellweger created this kind of drama, and over again said, people are going to wait in line to see me, and nobody did. And I said to my brother a year ago, when they pushed it to this year, this movie is going to flop so bad. But my advice to anyone, if you want to know, if you want to read Snow White, read it from the original text. And also watch the original animated movie. It is one of the most beloved movies that Disney ever created. It has this powerful imagery, this beautiful songs. It is absolutely gorgeous, and it definitely is worth the time and effort to actually watch it. Now, what is this going to do to Zellweger's career? I personally don't care. I don't. But because it is related to a book, because it is related to a story, that's why I did this video. But when you go and see a movie that had multiple times and in 4 days goes down to 1 time or 2 times, that tells you that that they have made their decision that this movie is going to go back to Disney. And it is not just here in Louisville that it happened. There have been places in Ohio, in Florida, in California, in Nevada, that you have nothing but empty seats. You could kill someone in that theater and nobody would know that. Nobody would know. But you literally have empty movie theaters. And this is not good for Disney. These seats are not being occupied by people paying money to see the movie. They are going to watch other movies, or they may be watching The Pit. Don't know. But they're definitely not lining up to see Zellweger's film, and it is showing and everything. So, now, I will say this. I will be very clear on this. If you go to see the movie and you absolutely love it, wonderful. I am not going to condemn you for that. I think everyone should have the right to enjoy what they enjoy. But we should not overlook that Zellweger did not care what it was going to do to her movie career, and people let her know. Alright, that is it for today. I am actually going to. I have not gotten back to final exam, but I will get back to it. But yeah. So I will see you guys around.